that's been kicked in the nuts by fake news. Nobody knows what to believe.
I don't know what I said.
We need one maverick newsman to cut through all the noise and tell us what's really real.
I'm not that guy. Hello, and welcome to Really Real with Richie Redding. I'm Richie Redding, and this is episode New Wave. It's been a long time since Spanish class. Bobby, how are you, sir? It's good to see you.
Great to see you too. I'm doing pretty well. How about you?
Good. I'm glad to be back on the pod. Glad to be back in my own building. That we got evacuated around 1 a.m. on Thursday night, and have been back for like 1 hour. And
man, I can imagine that's pretty stressful. Just before we go any further, you're recording, right? I don't want to have any issues.
do you think for 1 second, Bobby, that I am the kind of professional podcaster that would forget to hit record and wind up having to tell a 10-minute long story a second time as though it was the first? Is that what you're telling me, kind sir?
No, you put way more effort in than that. We're ready to go. Fresh, new, great seeing you.
Fisticuffs. You and I. We're going to old-timey fight where the knuckles face out. Do you think they actually fought like that? You know what I mean? The posters, like it's the fighting Irish shit.
So now, in full disclosure, this is the same grandfather who claimed anyone with the last name Gordon we were related to. But he told me in the rules of bear fighting knuckle, you had to punch that way so you couldn't do as much damage. It was almost like slap boxing.
Really?
Again, anyone with the last name Gordon, Melvin Gordon. He said we were related to.
But what's the penalty for turning it over when you just destroy the guy's face instead?
Well, at least nowadays, like those bare knuckle leagues are clans. So like your clan shows up to fist fight the other clan, and it's almost like a wrestling team where you've got different weight categories. So
right.
Like if you cheat, the whole other team would jump in, and then your team would just let them because you broke the rules.
Yeah, the gypsies. Okay, well, we've gotten ourselves off track
around here, buddy. That's my people you're talking about.
The Gordon. Wait, are you Singayan?
No, I was just making a joke.
Oh,
Gordon
okay.
G. We're good. Go ahead. Let's get back away from the important part, which is you just got back in the building.
I did just get back in the building. So Thursday. So this appears to be the only thing that's wrong is that somehow the electrical on this side doesn't work. I tried to Fonzie it, but it's not doing nothing. So I was walking the dog around midnight, and like it sounded loud in the hallway for some reason, but then I got to the elevator, and the floor indicator thing was just making little circles. And whenever any kind of sensor is doing the little circles, it's not a good sign, right? But more importantly, it sounded like a waterfall coming down it. And yeah, and I go to the other side, and it's like the building's enormous, but it's like 100 yards away. Get down the elevator, and it had the vibe of like there's people there that like clearly worked for the place and had been woken up, but like it was the vibe of like something bad just started or is about to happen. And I get outside, and this chick is like, "Are you flooded?" I was like, "No, why? What's up?" She's like, we're sitting in her apartment, and just suddenly we were up to our knees in water. I'm like, holy shit. And it turns out that 25,000 gallons of water in, like, you know, the water towers on the roof of like every building for the sprinklers, that all just went boom. So 25,000 gallons came out all at once, and all 25,000 of them shits found their way right on down to the floor. So it was and people keep coming out. It was the people with dogs first, funny enough. And a chick on the 7th floor was like, yeah, we had like 1 foot of water, and then the 6th floor was like we had 6 inches of water. But by this point, there's already water just like falling out the front of the building. It made like one whole side like unpassable because it was just dirty ass water that just picked up like everything along the way. There's a saying in construction which is that water finds its way, and boy did this water find its way. And so the fire trucks came like hard body karate. There's like 3 fire trucks. They got all this shit. And I heard one of those guys say, you're going to have to shut it down and you should probably evacuate because this thing could spark. And it was like, oh, no. So I like immediately spring into action and come upstairs, and in hindsight, it wasn't that bad because they didn't turn off the power while we were here. But like that race against time feeling, it's like, well, I'm doing something here. And shame on me that I don't have the go bag. At the beginning of the pandy, I wanted to get one, and I don't have it. I do have some other things, but I don't have that. And so just throwing shit together, I needed to have enough stuff for me to, for the weekend. I have to get like 6 huge things of the ridiculous custom-made food for our dog that it's this hand chef cooked shit, human grade. So like grab all that, throw it together. I grabbed some very random little pieces of food. Like we weren't going to be out of blueberries and yogurt, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just whatever I could get in the bag. And then the most exciting part of the exit was that I carry all this shit down to the down to the garage in the basement, and it's completely black, which is like a nightmare scenario. Just a big dark, huge black garage. So by phone light.
At this point, is the garage
the
wet?
water was starting to hit the garage. Yeah.
Are you nervous that it's going to spark like they said? Because now you're dealing with sparkling water.
I'm not worried about sparkling water. I was worried about a fire, Bobby. That's what I meant by that.
Oh no, sparkling water is a term when electricity and water mix in construction, and like you get electrocuted by stepping in it. You thought I meant?
I thought you meant it was going to turn into Perrier. Like, dude, I'm a grown ass man. I can handle a little bubbly in my life. No. I wasn't worried about that. I was just worried about getting out. The problem was that the door was shut to the office, and it was like, if this thing's locked, we're toast. Like, we're not getting out of here. So luckily that was unlocked. Like with the phone light, I'm searching around, find my unit number, get the car keys, get out of there. And I hear behind me like, hey, stop. Like somebody's just going nuts and chasing me down the street. And I'm thinking it's just like somebody from the building is trying to stop me from taking my own car. And then the dude like literally is like, please stop. So I stop, and it's the Dominican dude that's the parking attendant. He's like, dude, I locked myself out. I was trying to help with the water, and I'm locked out. Please let me in. Please. Like, all right, bro, it's not that deep. So I like back out and back down the street and let this dude in, and then come around to get Lisa. And I run in, and so like I think it's interesting about these type of things is that it's like a stress situation. It really like brings out the best or worst. Like I feel like for me it's obvious. It's like I'm going to take action. Like what's the next right step to take here? How do we get a little bit better at a time? And while while I'm going to like I have to go inside to get my girls to get Chloe. She's on sleep with her weird pink eye open. Uh, there's some dude is sitting there like fuming, and I was like, "Bro, can you just watch the SUV for me?" He didn't respond. I was like, "Bro, can you just watch it for a second? I gotta get my girls." He's like, "Yeah." Finally, so immediately we go out, we get in the car. She goes, "That guy is a bitch." I was like, "Word?" She's like, "Yeah, he just flipped his shit inside." So, dude came down. Like the first thing he said, he's like, "I am suing all of you. I am suing. I bill $1,350 an hour. I'm an attorney, and you'll be hearing from me. I got electronics. I've got my office. I got my right." And he's like flipping out, and some Jersey City firefighter just goes, "Renter's insurance, bro." And he just checked the shit out of him. And the dude, like, so he just had like nothing to do but sit there and look stupid. And I guess he called an Uber or something. But also, that is such a bombastic number to throw out. $1,350. That's what you bill. You don't live in the same building as I do. If you make $1,350 an hour, you don't live. We don't cross paths, right? No. You're Alan Dershowitz. Like, I've got a buddy that does legal marketing, and it was a huge deal that his firm got whoever the justice was that retired a couple of years ago, and that guy bills $1,500 an hour. So, yeah. So the yuppie scum that lives in the same building as I do somehow is only a billing stone throw away from a retired Supreme Court justice. I don't know, handsome. That don't hold up. Much like our water tower, that does not hold water, sir.
If I was comparing my demographic to yours, there would have been a redneck standing outside like, "Does that mean I don't love Darlene no more? Because I spray painted it on there and then it exploded."
I don't know what any of that meant, Bobby.
Oh, you never climbed a water tower to profess your love with some spray paint and graffiti?
Oh, climbing a water tower.
And then you paint your love forever on there? It's like the French have the lock tower, rednecks have water towers.
Yeah. No, I have not climbed a water tower for those purposes. I had some ill-advised water tower climbs drunk that is proof that God looks out for drunks and babies, but that was about it. But yeah, so dude, it's a whole shit show, and we came back today and we saw our super, who's dope. They've got the fans everywhere. They're like doing it right, but the super said that the elevators on our side of the building are going to be out for 2 months. And so we might not be having this background for too much longer, basically. Yeah, it's gonna be a tough one. Yeah, I don't know. I do love. I would miss the brick wall, but it's always fun when your girl is super pissed off and is not at you. Yeah. Oh man, these poor bastards are really about to feel the wrath of 5'1" Jew broad. Let them have it, baby girl. We're getting out of this lease. But also, dude, they said that we can. They're like, so. I mean, well, first of all, the apartment building is taking a bath, right? Because the top 3 floors are still out of the building, and there's like, I think it's like 40. Yeah, it's 40 units per floor. And so they're paying for hotel rooms they're paying for 160 hotel rooms a night.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's fixing to add up quick, boy. And then, but then they said, they're like, you can, if you had food go bad, you can put that against your renter's insurance. Like, my insurance? This sounds like your insurance.
Yeah.
I
Was
don't know.
my
We'll see
water
if-
tower that broke?
yeah, my water tower is nice. Mine's keep it all on the inside. But yeah, so super stressful around here. But it's going to be tumultuous couple months. But I do think that there's some kind of like unwritten law that in order to be a landlord in Jersey City, you have to be an asshole. You have to be. I mean, I could literally do like a 2-hour long story on my Jersey City landlords, but the first one I had, it was this dude Angel. And side note, every dude named Angel I've ever met has been an absolute nightmare. Every single one of them is just a threat to his common man. just a menace to society. And this dude, I basically decided I had an audition that the reason that I moved up here was that I had an audition for it was like they were redoing a Def Jam type thing, and I had always crushed those things when I was in Philly, and I did one in New York that I was in between Ruperto Vanderpool and Mark Vieira. And when both of them were on stage, it sounded like somebody literally just started a jet and just. And when I was on stage, it did not. But I mean, it was also two Spanish guys in front of an all Spanish crowd. So I mean, it's like it's apples to oranges there. But yeah, I decided I had to move up here, and I just while I was here for that audition, I mean, like that night, I was like, fuck it, I'm moving in like 2 days. I went on Craigslist, mistake one, to find a new place. And it's this dude, it was just a room. It was a $500 room per month in this guy's place, this guy, Angel. He picked me up from the path, and he took me he drove me to his house in like what felt like a roundabout way, but it was like a pretty nice way, you know. Yeah. And found out that the walk from the PATH train at night was not nice. Basically, I had to pay, like cross projects to get there. Like there was no avoiding crossing these projects. Dude, I was so broke when I first moved up here, and it also like predated Venmo or like promoters ever paying in PayPal. So, like there was times when it was like I had $700 in my pocket, and that was my rent. Like that was it. That was rent and food for the week. Like cannot get mugged. Like I literally I think there was 3 times where I just felt something behind me and just fucking booked it home. Like, so, which must have been very fun for whoever it was if they did not intend to rob me, just to be like, yeah, white boy running. But with Angel, I dropped my stuff. He was like, oh, so to picture Angel, he's 5'6", put him at 320, right? So fit. And where like he shows this, the place was actually a nice old building, and he had like 3 renters in there, which probably paid, or maybe it was 4, but that paid, you know, his whole fucking rent, right, or his whole mortgage. And he's like, yeah, you can use the kitchen. Like, I don't really use it like that, but, you know, like label your stuff and shit, you know. But like, you can use it. So the room is whatever, you know, it's like, okay, like I'll do this. I move in day 1, and there's some other girl that was moving out, and like as we're meeting her, or like as we're coming in, this girl is this nice black girl, and she's like, "Hi, my name is Pastor so and so." She introduces herself to my parents. My mom loves this, right? Because my mom's super Christian. Oh my gosh, nice to meet you. She's like, it just didn't work out here, but blessings, whatever. And then like a minute later, when we're upstairs with my stuff, I hear her screaming like, "I swear to God, Angel, I will rip your fucking face off." And she just started in the middle of the street. She's like, please, Jesus, give me the power not to stomp this man out right now. I swear to God, Jesus, I swear to God." I'm like, I don't think that's how prayer works, but okie dokie. So she literally winds up like about to tussle in the street with this dude, and then finally he like goes into his truck and gets something, and it turned out it was all just about the security deposit. And oh right, she had the entire downstairs. That's what it was. So it was 4, and so it's like, okay, that's interesting, right? And
It's certainly a point on a curve.
yeah, and when I first saw the place, when we went in to see the kitchen, it was it was dark, and I don't realize until I got the lights on that it's like, oh, these floors are disgusting. And there's mouse turds on it, right? I'm like, oh, awesome. But it clearly hadn't been mopped in like years, right? But I was still getting my stuff together, so I just dropped I dropped my stuff, that like my kitchen stuff, because I do cook, and then keep it moving so I could like start setting up the bedroom. And I cook. So that night, like I'm still in the process of setting up. Angel gives me a call. He's like, "Hey, bro, what's up, man? So I was just wondering, so are you gonna put your stuff away in the kitchen, or are you just gonna leave it there for like the rest of your fucking life?" I was like, I mean, given those two options, I guess I'll come and get it. So I do that. I wind up, I cook one time, and he sends me text at like 2 a.m. "You left the kitchen disgusting. This is disrespectful. You got to clean these floors, bro." Like, wait, what? You think I made years worth of grease on the floor today? But I'm like, all right, you know what? I don't want to bother with this. Like, it's not worth the headache. This scumbag clearly doesn't clean the floors, so I get bleach or whatever, whatever you use. I clean the floor and keep it moving, right? So Angel has this little bitch ass dog. He has a tiny little Yorkie, and he always walks this thing off the leash. He's on his phone. He doesn't like, just not looking at all, right? And and I finally have the kitchen like set up kind of nice, so here's the funny behind the dog is that this dog is every bit as morbidly obese as is Angel, right? It's because he feeds it the worst Puerto Rican diet in the world, right? And he's like, yeah, man, like I used to. Because at one point I told him, I was like, dude, you're killing this dog, because he was giving it Chinese food. Dude, the dog had to break a flight of steps into like 4 different tries, like burst of effort, right? And it's like a 3 or 4 year old dog. So there's turds on the step one day. And I'm like, "Yo, Angel, just so you know, there's dog shit on the steps if you can get that." He's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll get it." I see him grab a yellow sponge with a blue top, pick up the turds in that, and then like 20 minutes later, I go down, and my yellow sponge with the blue top is there. I'm like, Angel, did you pick up dog shit with my dish sponge and then put it back? He's like, I washed it. There's no difference. God. Like, no, this is not I shouldn't be the one that has to explain this to you, right? But and the time that I tell him that he's killing the dog, he's like, look, man, I used to give her dog food and shit, but like then I gave her that Popeye's chicken, right? And then I gave her them Chinese rib tips, and that's all she wants. She don't want none of that dog shit now. And I saw this man give his dog Vienna sausages, right? Take the juice from the Vienna sausages and put it in the dog water. Like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, she don't like it without the juice. Like, oh my God. It's like fat men and their fat dogs has always been fascinating. Right? And then he would also just leave a pile of ham on the floor. They're usually, he only had a dog water bowl. He didn't have a food bowl. He would just throw this shit on the floor. Right. So I'm just living my life, doing comedy, living in this place, like trying to be there as little as possible. Right. And at like 2 a.m, I get this barrage of like dozens of texts. Yo, bro, you're leaving the kitchen disgusting. I need you to start getting your food out of your kitchen privileges are going to be suspended. And I go downstairs. I'm like, what? Like, the next day, I'm like, where's the food? He's like, in the sink. I look in the sink, and there's literally like 3 pieces of rice caught in the trap of it, in the drain. I was like, did it get cleaned up? He's like, no, dude, look at that. I was like, you mean these 3 pieces of rice? He's like, yeah, bro. What you gonna do with that shit? I was like, Angel, respectfully as possible, I am a grown man. If you ever do this again, we're gonna have a major problem. He's like, oh, what, you trying to get physical? I was like, dude, never again. So we like a couple months go by. I think I was there for like 3 or 4 months total, and then again I get the barrage of texts in the middle of the night. And he's like, yo, we got a mouse infestation and it's your fault because you be cooking. No more kitchen ever. I was like, well, I'm moving out. Like, there's, you can't tell me not to use the kitchen. And he's like, I got to get an exterminator and it's getting charged to you. And I was like, you're out of your fucking mind if you think I'm paying for the exterminator for this shithole. I happen to I'm the one that intercepts the door when the exterminator comes, and it's this old black guy, and he's like, "Yeah, I heard you got a mouse problem." And I was like, yeah, there's a big mouse problem, but and Angel's behind me, right? And I was like, sir, how long have you been an exterminator? He's like, 25 years. I'm like, okay, so in your professional 25-year opinion, do you think that a mouse would walk past a pile of ham on the floor and then go on a suicide mission into a sink for 3 grains of rice? Or do you think you'd eat the ham on the floor? There he goes, somebody's leaving ham on the floor? I was like, yeah. He's like, what do you think of that? He's like, that's a terrible idea. Like, it's a terrible idea. And from behind me, I hear Angel's like, yo, I'm the one that's got to pay you, bro. Come here. And so I'm immediately on the lookout for a new place, right? So there's it's kind of like once you've given your 2-week notice that, like, no matter how shitty a job is, nothing can really affect you. You know what I mean?
Getting me down.
Oh, dude, and also there was homeless dudes that would ring the doorbell at like 4 a.m, just like no eye contact, like, yeah, is Angel here? Like, no, and it would always be like, okay, and just walk away. Like, what are you doing with these dudes? Like, I don't want to know. Oh, another fun Angel fact was that he loved Derek Gaines, and because Derek lived like a few blocks away, and he would come over for like either dinner or we would work out together. It was usually like we'd work out. I would put him through some boot camp, always make him throw up, hilarious, and and then we'd eat. And we had just worked out, and we come downstairs, and Angel sees him, and this motherfucker lights up. He's like, "Oh my God, my dude, look at you! You all sweaty and shit. You was glistening." I say that to Derek like at least 5 times a year. "Oh my God, you was glistening! Look at you!" And we're just going around the corner to a store, and Angel all of a sudden turns Mr. Chivalrous. He's like, "Yo, man, you so moist and shit. Like, you're going to get pneumonias. Here, take my coat." And this motherfucker takes his coat off and tries to put it on Derek. He's going to get this shit off. I'm good, dude. I'm good. I mean, dude, if you didn't just come out of a fire for a grown man to put a jacket over you like that, you're his now. Like, he technically owns you from this point on. But so here's the peak of the Angel shit is that it's I feel like it was like early summer, right? Like it just started getting nice. Oh yeah, and I come home and there's the single shittiest Puerto Rican candle memorial that you've ever seen, right? And I took a picture of it somewhere. It's got to be impossible to find right now, but it's a printed out picture of his dog Penny, and it's just like duct taped onto the front gate, and there's all these, there's all the Jesus candles are there, and in shitty Sharpie says, "Penny, Poppy will always love you, and I always love taking walks with you. You're forever mine, blah, blah, blah." And I see this, I'm like, what the fuck happened here? But mind you, he walked the dog off the leash all the time, right? And I see him, and he comes. I'm like on my way to a store, and he's like all mopey walking down the street. He's like, "Yo, bro, you see the memorial?" And I was like, yeah. What happened? He's like, "I don't know, bro. Like, I was crossing the street and shit, and she was always so good. She stays like right here." The dog was always 30 feet behind him, and he was on his phone. The street that he mentioned was like a 5-way intersection. He's like, "I don't know." And I just like, I heard like a little screech, and then I came back, and she was all like, and she was like, and she was like throwing up her guts and shit, and she was shitting out her ass and shit. And then, she just died right there. Like, there was nothing I could do. I was like, yeah, sorry, man, and he's like, "All right, well, like, I might have like a little service or something, if you want to come by." It's like, yeah. So this black dude down the street comes a little bit later. He comes by, and he's like, yeah, heard about the dog, huh? I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, it's a real shame. It's like, you know what happened to his last dog, don't you? I was like, no, I didn't even know there was another dog. He's like, yeah, it got ran over because he was walking it off the leash. It's like, really? It's like, you know what happened to the dog before that? I was like, no. He's like, yeah, walking it off the leash. And he's like, yo, but here's the thing, dude. He's like, there's a guy around here that sells hot dogs. And I'm positive that he got that dog from this dude that goes to like rich white neighborhoods and steals dogs and then sold it to him. So not only is he the single worst dog parent in the world, he's also paying into this horrendous dog theft ring. Oh my God, dude. The man is involved with dog napping. You can't even wrap your head around it, dude.
So
Like,
many
just
layers
how
to that
can
story.
how can one person be that bad, all that bad in one person? And
Like, how much cheaper could the dogs possibly be?
oh, lots.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, a purebred dog is like probably starts at 3,500, goes up to like 7. But
Okay,
yeah,
so
and they were
we're
all
talking
all
hot.
purebreds
We
too.
could move it for like 1,000 a dog. You're saying?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna need to
Yeah, you're
borrow some of
saving
that
lots.
dog food, Richie.
But yeah, dude, dog napper, the worst. And so when it was finally time to go, and he tried to hit me with he's like, yeah, man, there's these marks on the wall. These marks wasn't here when you moved in, bro. He's like, I won't have to like hold your security deposit because of that. I was so done with the guy at this point, and I was like, Angel, give me my fucking money. He's like, well, what? I was like, I'm going to break your nose. And he's like, I might be gay, but I can fight. I'm Puerto Rican too. I was like, that's fine, but I'm gonna break your fucking nose. And he's like, this is already assault. Like, you can't just threaten me. And my dad goes, you do have a pretty nose. And that's when he was like, all right, this whole family might be crazy enough to fuck me up. Oh man, great getting into a tussle with dad. Like, I mean, we probably combined for the same weight as him. Like, it would have been a fair one. And we were at the top of some steps. So what I actually was picturing was just like, dude, I'm getting high and just I'm putting my back against this wall. I'm kicking, and that fat bastard is tumbling down them steps. That was my Jackie Chan scene that I fucking pictured. But dude, is that nuts? That's
incredible.
So, and I will also preface this by saying that was my second worst landlord.
Oh shit!
I'm telling you, the other guy. Actually, no, he was the third worst. And the other one is it's literally a 2-hour episode. I told it to somebody on an old podcast, and I think I did 2 hours on it and didn't actually finish it. And all these people hit me up. They were like, dude, what happened to the rest of Bitch Ass Ron? So maybe one of these days I'll tell you the whole Bitch Ass Ron story. But the dog napping does remind me that I feel like I don't know if this is like a product of our moment, that of like everybody's worried about grooming now, right? It's like just the word grooming is everywhere, and I feel like the people that like the Matt Walshes of the world that like they're so aware of grooming that there's no way their kids aren't constantly hearing about it. And is that not itself a form of sexualizing your kids by just making them so terrified of getting groomed, right? Of like everything is fucking grooming. I just feel like when I was a kid, the only threat was getting kidnapped. Right? That was the hustle in the 80s. Was just don't get kidnapped. That was the whole deal. This is my Trump hair doing.
And you thought that meant you were going to be like held for ransom, and your parents didn't want to deal with that. You didn't realize what it meant by "don't get kidnapped."
Well, right. So, yeah, it was like just don't wind up on the milk container, right? And like, yeah, I thought it was that they were gonna like you're gonna have a new mom and dad, and they were gonna change your name and give you a bad haircut. Turns out that's not what's going to happen. Yeah, they don't even mention that on the milk, you know.
No,
Like,
not at all.
I feel like if I knew what the stakes were, I would have played the game so much harder, you know. Like, dude, I thought I was just fending off a bowl cut, but. If I knew I was trying not to get done in the butt, boy, I would have got off that bus. Laces tight, baby. Did your family have a password?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
It was YSU Penguins, because who would know the YSU Penguins?
Oh, yeah, that's good. I'm not telling mine because I.
Turns out both my parents went to YSU. It would have been one Google search away from figuring out that was probably a good guess.
Yeah, but also people only have and also there was no Google when you were a kid, right?
No. I mean, I guess around 6 or so, the internet came into mainstream.
My family's was so good. I don't want to tell it. I want to have it for my kids still. I want to have the option.
I like that.
It's good.
The family runs.
It was get in the van. Never get in a car with anyone unless they say, want some candy. Then you're good.
You know how you love puppies. If he tells you he has a puppy, go pet it.
Yeah, but dude, it's so funny to think that everybody flipped out over the Dylan Mulvaney thing. Meanwhile, milk containers had kids that were getting butt fucked, and nobody said peep. They were moving units. Dude, it's such a it's so crazy that it fell on milk to be like the way that they got the word out about that like it wasn't the paper, it wasn't the evening news. Milk, just as a marketing ploy, how insane that is. Like, we think we know how to move more units. Missing children. Tell me more.
Nobody played it out a step like, hey, missing children have gone down since we put them on milk, but milk sales have also gone down. Like, what's milk going to do then? Well, we got a plan, boys. Don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a, I mean, but it's such a bummer to have on there. Like, I wonder who paid them for that. I mean, there is no bigger bummer in the world than a missing kid. And we were all just eating Wheaties, just staring right at little Timmy, who turns out was getting butt fucked with a bowl cut. Talk about insult to injury. Golly, that was insensitive.
It's the second verse of the Folger song. The best part of waking up is the subtle reminders that there are children that are being raped.
God. You had to use the R word, man.
You know,
I found this out yesterday that on TikTok they now say SA. Like,
San Antonio.
Yeah. That because the R word can get you dinged on the algorithm. It's not like we're monetizing this shit, so don't worry. This is two insane people having a conversation that about 32 people are going to see.
We're gonna lose our sponsors.
Yeah, we're actually sponsored by rapists, so double-edged sword we have for ourselves here. But well, I mean, it is just wild how far off I am from my notes every episode to what I actually wind up talking about. What am I doing? People, I hope you're enjoying this because I sure am. But I felt like, as you know, Bobby, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I do like looking into these things and seeing what's credible, you know. And I just wanted to talk about the Boston bomber, the American Manhunt on Netflix. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
It's worth a watch, but it's about the Boston Marathon bombing, and there's definitely plenty of it's a good documentary, but it misses a ton of one of the more fun things of the whole thing is that once they finally had the Tsarnaev brothers pinned down, they were in Watertown, and one guy came out 3 times in the middle of a shootout, like, "Hey, you guys need some help? Like, I'll help with this cocksucker." Like, dude, and the cop literally says, like, "Unless you've got some 40 cal, back inside."
Well, conveniently enough.
Yeah.
Don't ask, don't tell, officer.
Right. It's a miracle that the cops didn't kill anybody in that gunfight, right? That, like, they fired, how many was it? I had made a note of it. 210 bullets when they were shooting at the car. And one of them went through a window that missed a baby's head by inches. So, like, yeah, I mean, they're in a freaking gunfight. But yeah, so the story of those guys, of the brothers, is full of holes, and there's a few things that they mention in the documentary, like they kind of like brush up against them. So I highly encourage watching it, right? And I'm not the best at this, and this is just kind of like I took some notes, but it's a lot of stuff from memory and from looking at other podcasts and shit that the doc kind of blames like their parents' divorce for them hating America, and that's like what set them off, and that it was like, you know, their inability to make a real living, and like the racial bias because of 9/11 was why they started hating America. But what it doesn't mention at all is that their mom was actually like pretty fucking hardcore hating America, and they so gotta paint a better picture here. So I think it was 5 months before the bombing, there was a killing of these 3 guys in Waltham, and Waltham, however you say that, and they were like, you know, frat style drug dealers basically, but they all did MMA with Tamerlan, who's the brother that was like the one in charge of this thing, and the one that died, who, by the way, so he got shot a whole bunch, and then the younger brother ran him over when he was escaping and might have scalped him, but in the process, yeah.
Like intentionally? Or like with a car?
With a car, yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, not. Yeah, no, he wasn't taking a scalp, and so those guys. So that killing of 3 people was never solved, right? It was left open for a really long time, and a few months after that, or a couple months after that, Tamerlan flew to Russia. And the thing that they mention in the doc is that the FBI and the CIA were both warned by the FSB that which is like Russia's, kind of CIA basically. It's KGB adjacent. They were warned by the FSB that to be on the lookout for this guy, right? And despite that warning, he was still allowed to fly without a passport, and he went to Russia. And in the doc, it says that he went there to like find his roots, and he wanted to, to really connect with Islam, as they always say, and he met with these guys that were called the Union of the Just, and he was expecting for them to like, show him the hardcore shit, but that never happened. They just like hung out on the beach, and it wasn't actually a terrorist thing, but they had some radical ideas. What the doc doesn't mention is that the mother's brother was in charge, was the head of the Union of the Just. And he was connected to these other organizations, one of them being this thing. So they were Chechen, right? And one of them was, while he was there, they think that he also might have gone to Georgia and had gone to this like gathering seminar type thing about getting the Russians out of the Caucasus, which was a straight up CIA front. And it was run by a guy who's like a known actual CIA operative, whose name is Graham Fuller. Right. And so the CIA, so basically like to sow havoc in Russia, they were supporting Islamic Chechens to constantly fight Russia in the Caucasus, right? And that's what he was doing. That's what Graham Fuller was doing. Not the mother's uncle, but Uncle Ruslan Sarny, just so happens to be married to the daughter of Graham Fuller. So the guy who committed the two brothers that committed the biggest act of domestic terrorism since 9/11, their uncle is married to a CIA agent. Little weird. Also, one of the and Tamerlan, another super weird thing, he was married to a 21-year-old white girl whose father was former military intelligence. Like, it's that part doesn't make sense. That's his game. He was just spitting some serious Muslim game. But so then here's where it really gets weird. So while he was there, there's this guy named Plotnikov who was a Canadian who basically like he was a Canadian Westerner who adopted Islamic ideas, and he went to Russia to fight. And he was in touch with Tamerlan, and when he was captured, they captured his phone, and that's how they wound up warning the U.S. feds about him, because they saw their messages. So they then let Tamerlan into the country, which is already weird, right? Especially because they were under the impression, they gave the impression that they were seeking asylum from Russia. So you're not allowed to go. First of all, the country that Russia wouldn't let you in if you're seeking asylum, and it would be the biggest red flag for immigration status if you went back to the place that you're seeking asylum from. So it's unclear where they were actually doing it from, and all that stuff has been redacted. But while he's in Russia, that guy Plotnikov got killed by the FSB. And like 2 days later, Tamerlan leaves. So that right there means that he could have been working for the FSB, or he was just getting tracked, and and he led them to them inadvertently. But it's super weird either way. But then back home, this is where it gets real weird. Is that, well, and first of all, so here's like the biggest red flag of them all is that there was a hearing about this whole thing, and I think it was Grassley asked somebody, it was whoever's like the head of the TSA, how they were allowed to fly, or how he was allowed to fly without a passport. And she said, I can give you the more details of it, but basically his watch list status was changed so that it wouldn't flag at JFK. So he could have flown out of Logan in Boston, 10 miles from his house, but he drove down to JFK to fly to Russia, which is the only place on those screens only his status, his watch status wouldn't come up. Kind of weird.
It's a hell of a coincidence.
But here's where it really gets cooking, is that there was this thing called it was like a huge New England thing that was it was like a sting operation called Operation Run This City, and there was all these Muslim guys that were selling crack and moving like real weight from Maine all the way down to Connecticut, and it was run by, like I said, it was these Muslim guys, but they were giving they were sending, the reason that it got on the radar was that they were sending money to Al-Shabaab to fund, which is basically like Al-Qaeda in Somalia, right? And there was, around this time, what's his face, Tamerlan starts flashing all kinds of money. And when they busted the head of this thing, it was the informant name was redacted. It's been redacted ever since. But there's like established meetings from the mosque and the MMA gym that they go to that Tamerlan definitely knew this guy and was interacting with this guy. So if he was an informant, then he had to actually be doing something in this organization and selling drugs, right? And that whole thing resulted in them also rolling up the guy that was the drug crew that was supplying those dudes, who was also directly supplying shit to the 3 guys that got killed in Waltham. And all 3 of those guys were like really good friends with Tamerlan before he got radicalized. And that was, those guys were all almost beheaded. They were either beheaded or almost beheaded, and 2 of them were Jewish, and their dicks were cut off and thrown on them. Right. And that coincides with a time when he was like super hyped up and like, you know, basically a baby ISIS, but also, and they tried to, they said that it was a drug deal or a drug robbery gone wrong, but they left behind tens of thousands of dollars in cash and pounds of weed. So like that doesn't hold up, right? And after so he had this other friend, what was this fucking guy's name? Todashev, who, and that was September 11th, 2011, when that murder took place. And that night, this guy Todashev grabbed minimal shit in the middle of the night and immediately moved to Orlando and never set foot back in New England again. Right. But also this murder just got dropped. Basically, they just said it just got written off as like, oh, it was a drug bust gone, or drug robbery gone wrong. Yeah, chalk it up to the game type shit. And after the bombing and after the whole thing, after both of these guys are wrapped up and the older one's dead and the other one's the other one was in custody, feds pay a visit to this guy Todashev, and they got a confession out of him. And so this guy was cagey, that he was like, he was trying to meet them in public. They refused to meet in public. And so he said, he's like, okay, you guys can come, but I'm going to have my friend here to watch. Get a fucking lawyer. Get a lawyer. Just get a lawyer. So they go to his apartment and he tells them that he had agreed to, like, just go rough him up and steal some shit. And then it turned into the murder, but he was so afraid of him that, like, in that moment, he felt like he was so afraid that he couldn't do anything to stop it. But it was all Tamerlan that did the murders. So they get that confession signed, and then they escort the friend out because there's just going to be one more second. It's just a matter of formalities now, and this guy just has to pee. And then the official story is that he came back with his hands at first they said they were bound, and they said they were unbound. He threw a coffee table at them and charged them, and they had to shoot him 6 times, one of them being in the top of the head. And
oh boy.
And that story also involved that there was a samurai sword on the wall, and he went for that, and he was swinging the samurai sword at them, and that's when they shot him. But then one of the cops said that, oh, right, I forgot. I took it off the wall because it was so dangerous, and I put it behind something, so it was a coffee table, which is a massive discrepancy. I've had coffee tables pushed towards me. I would know for sure if that was a samurai sword. But so that part just stinks to the highest of heavens, right? And then there's also the fact that they never actually found any bomb making stuff in their houses. That they scoped their drains and shit like that, right? Like the only thing that they found it was in the younger brother's apartment. His butthead friends threw the shit out, and they got the book thrown at him for that. And it never help an accused terrorist, guys. That's another little pro tip for you. But he had like hollowed out fireworks, but that's not even what they used in these pressure cooker bombs. And they also didn't have any like circuit tester shit, which you would need to make sure that it's going to go off and you can test it without blowing yourself up. But there was a dude named Daniel Morley who went there. If you remember, part of the story was that a cop got killed on MIT's campus that night, and they said it was because the brothers needed to have they wanted to get a second gun, so they bum rushed this guy and tried to get his gun but failed. And they showed in court for it, they showed this video footage that was like literally like 300 feet away, and it was so blurry that they just called it the two figures. And the two figures approach the cop, and they shoot, run away, and then one of the figures goes back and fumbles with the gun and doesn't get it and leaves. So they didn't have the gun, which is the only thing that could really put them there as killing that cop that night. But there was a cop, there was an incident. Well, another thing with that is that, like, within a minute of when that murder happened of that cop, there was a call between the two brothers, which why would they call each other if they were standing right next to each other after they just shot somebody, right? But like, it was something like 5 minutes before that happened. There was a robbery at a local 7-Eleven, and it was this guy Dan Morley, and the description was shown to his friends, like it was shown to like associates, and they're like, yeah, that's Dan. He never got picked up for it, and in fact, the feds took over that investigation, and it just never went anywhere. And he went to, so the only reason that this guy wound up on the public's radar was that he freaked out on his mom and like burned her, like took her glasses off her face and like melted them on the stove, and then like drew whiskers on his stepdad, and there's all kinds of weird shit that he's had this meltdown. He was having like a psychotic break, and they called the cops. And when they went into his room, they found the exact same pressure cooker that was used in the bombing, which can only be bought at Macy's. They found BBs and carpentry nails, which were two signature pieces that were used in the bombing. They found thermate, which is like thermite, but like more powerful, used in the bombing. And they found electronics, which was probably the circuit testers that they would have needed in the bombing. And the night of the bombing, when it went off, when they first heard about it, the day of the bombing, when they first heard about it, the dad looked at the mom and said, "Was that him?" So they thought that it was probably him. And and he was away that whole day, and like came back like late the next day, and turned out that he was with some guy that it was like his ride or die guy. And when he was questioned by the police, he told them that he had done that those two had done something that they would have to answer to God for, but was not at all part of the bombing. So couple all that together with the fact that these dudes, they said that they learned how to make bombs in the Inspire magazine, which is like that Al-Qaeda's shitty magazine that does have, it has like, they had pipe bombs on them, which absolutely could have been made from that, but nowhere near as sophisticated as to set off two big ass pressure cooker bombs remote detonated within 12 seconds of each other out of this shitty magazine. And then meanwhile, you've got this other dude who wasn't around, who never was charged with anything, that had the exact same bomb ingredients at his house.
Oh my God.
I don't know, Bobby. That's not even the end of the weirdness, but I'll tell you what, I'm Richie Redding. And that's really real.
But first, thank you guys so much for watching and listening and whatever you're doing. I'm enjoying doing this so much. I hope somebody watches it. And if you guys want to come see me do stand-up comedy, I'm going to be doing a show in. I'm in the city all the time. You can check my Instagram has shows posted, but I'm doing a fun little room in Gloucester City, New Jersey. Bobby, what day is that? You're coming with me, yes. Young Robert is coming with me on April 28th, Gloucester City, New Jersey, Holy City Public House. It's a proper shit kicker. And I've got the Reverend Bob Levy coming with me, and that's always so much fucking fun. So, yeah, check it out. Like, reply, comment, jack off, whatever. Rub your balls on the keyboard. Just give me some interaction, baby. Really, really.